A big night for Jimmy Snuggard and win over the Canucks.
Hey, this is Brayden Chen.
Subscribe to Lock On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here in the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, we're going to talk about the big win last night, the 5-2 win over Vancouver. We're going to talk about an upcoming winning streak that is potential for the Blues and players who have impressed me so far in the first set of games. Before we get into today's episode, I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Blues had a 5-2 victory over their Vancouver Canucks, and it was such a good win for the Blues. Obviously, it was a big game for Jimmy Snuggard as he had 2 goals. So again, it was going to be his first goal of this season, and then he got a power play goal, which was a really nice setup from Bushi. We also saw Braden Schenn get his first goal of this season, and you all know that Braden Schenn is my favorite player besides Robert Thomas, so I was really happy about that. We also saw Nick Buksak get his first St. Louis Blue goal. And again, a great feed by Nathan Walker. And then Jakey Neighbors was able to get his third goal of this season on an unassisted empty netter at the end of the game. So now Jake Neighbors in the past 2 games has had at least a goal, as he had 2 goals in the previous game. But it was a really good game for the Blues. Obviously, I want to see them do a little bit better on faceoffs. I did feel as if the Canucks were just outbeating the Blues just by a little bit when it came to faceoffs from my observations watching the game. However, the Blues had a lot of shots on net with 36 to Vancouver's 29. I think that it's really important to bring that up as well because sometimes we don't see the Blues taking as many shots on goal. But I'm happy most importantly for Jordan Binnington. He had 29 shots against. Obviously, 2 goals went in, and he was able to save 27, so his save percentage was .931. Jordan Binnington struggled tremendously in the first game of the season against the Minnesota Wild, with the Wild winning 5-0. Then we saw Joel Hofer, who was fabulous in net against Calgary. And now we had Jordan Binnington having himself his usual game. So I was really pleased to see that. What I also am pleased to see, though, is some of the guys on the third and fourth line stepping up. I think that is something that I want to definitely see more throughout the season. Last year, and I thought the Blues did a fine job last year, but last year I felt like I saw a lot of action going on from the first couple lines and not as much from the last couple lines, and then it would be the opposite. And I feel like right now we're seeing as a team all the guys from all the lines stepping up, and I think that's something that's really important. Also, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Pius Suter made his return to Vancouver, where that's where he played the last couple seasons. Um, Before signing with the Blues this summer, so that was another thing. Another interesting kind of little tidbit that I want to mention about the game last night is the fact that, the Blues having a multi-goal lead is something that I think is really crucial because last season the Blues gave up 17 last-minute goals, and I feel like just having a multi-goal lead kind of gives some more reassurance as to the sense of hey, this is more preventable to happen, right? So I feel like that's also a really good thing for the Blues. But it was a really good game overall. They looked like themselves. They looked really good on the ice. And I am happy, though, that the Blues were able to now have 2 wins in a row. I also think, too, looking back on the game, I think Snugger needed this because in the first game, I personally don't think he looked that good. And I'm not trying to be too harsh on him by any means, but that's just my observation. And I think too, going on the road for a couple games, these guys were able to gain confidence, and hopefully they can use that before they come home tomorrow. But again, games like this, it's really important to just establish, the flow of the team. And I felt like the Blues did a really good job on that last night. Coach Montgomery spoke about Snuggerud and said he just worked hard. He was all over the pucks. He was pretty tenacious on pucks, hounding them. Obviously, that release is pretty special on the first goal and the second goal where you score goals right around the net. He also talked too, by the way, about his decision to swap Neighbors and Snuggerud at the start of the game because they were swapped. And he said the way the Thomas line is with Neighbors finished the last game scoring a couple of goals in the third, and we thought we could leave the lines the same. Now the third line scored a couple of goals for us tonight. And I think that's a really important thing to bring up because I personally thought all along Jake Neighbor should be on the first line. I thought it was a little weird to put Snuggerud on the first line, considering all things aside. Not because he's not a good player, but um, just because he doesn't have that much NHL experience. So I thought that was just something that I found a little suspicious, maybe. And I thought Jake deserved it. And I always say this, but sometimes having a really strong and solidified third line does make all the difference in the world. And that's what I saw. So I was really happy that the third line in the contest looked really good for the guys. Um, Braden Shen talked about Jimmy Snuggerud and said, I thought he was the best player on the ice for us tonight. He's dynamic, he's elite, a high hockey IQ. The first shot is pretty high end. He knows how to score goals, how to go to the right areas. With him, he's only going to get better as he goes. He also continued on and said, it's a tough league, and the guys are starting to understand who he is. For us, we'll do anything we can to try to help him, but he's getting better day by day. So nice words by the captain. I think that Braden Chen is a very nice guy and truly does care about his teammates. And that's something that, you want from your captain, obviously. But just kind of going on about the contest last night, um, it just, it was a 5-2 win. Couldn't ask for a better win on the road now. Calgary and now the Canucks. Two teams that, they're not bad hockey teams at all by any means. I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit, but I want to talk to you about my friends over at FanDuel first, though. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get 300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because I like same game parlays. I think same game parlays are the best way to bet because you usually win more money. And if you're smart about your same game parlays, they usually do hit if you do it strategically. So I'm excited for another week of football. Love football. So again, if you want to make some money and you like football and you like same game parlays, what are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. There's a potential winning streak for the Blues, the first of the season, as the Blues have now won 2 games. Some people make the argument that 2 games is a streak. I disagree with that. I think it's 3 games. And the Blues have a big game tomorrow night with their first regular season meeting hosting the Chicago Blackhawks. I hate the Blackhawks. We know that. We all hate the Blackhawks. That's nothing new. However, this is a game where it's really important that the Blues show some dominance in because I also don't want to sugarcoat anything, but Chicago necessarily hasn't been awful this season. And what I mean by this, it's pretty simple because with Chicago, right, they played the Panthers in the first game of the NHL regular season, which again, I don't think they deserve, but I do understand it's the 1-year anniversary. I mean, it's the 100-year anniversary of the original 6, so I get it. Um, However, still don't like it. The Panthers did win that game 3-2, but the Blackhawks did score first in that contest, which kind of bugs me because they were the first team to score in the NHL. So they won that. And then in an overtime, the Bruins beat the Blackhawks, but that gained them a point. Saturday, the Canadiens beat the Blackhawks again 3-2. It was a close score. And then yesterday, Chicago got their first win of the season with a 3-1 victory over the Mammoth. And then again, tomorrow is a big opportunity because, the Blues and the Blackhawks. So for me personally, I do feel like tomorrow's game does hold a lot of value and meaning just because, like, you want to have your team get on a good pace. And it's like you beat teams like the Canucks and you beat teams like the Flames, and you should be able to beat those teams like the Blackhawks. So that's why, for me personally, I just feel like it's one of those games the Blues should win. But again, we sometimes see the Blues struggle against teams that are less than them. But I also feel like it's unfair because, like, that was last year's team, and the teams that the Blues have played thus far have been pretty good, with all things aside, like with Minnesota, Calgary, and Vancouver. So I feel like, it's been competitive hockey. They haven't really played a team lesser than them by much. And I know Chicago is one of those teams where it's like, you know, they're not at that level yet, but they could be soon enough. So that's why, for me, sometimes I get a little bit apprehensive about these type of games. It's kind of like when the Blues play the Sharks, and I always get nervous. It's because, for whatever reason, some of these teams that are not that great still give our guys a tough run, a run for their money, I guess people say. And that's why with the game tomorrow, I just hope that the guys are able to really perform and do well, and they don't have to struggle too much. It's a little bit later of a puck drop, an 8:30 puck drop, which I don't really like because it's like late and tired and don't like that. But at the same time, it's a big game. And another interesting thing, happy Thanksgiving to all my Canadian friends. Yesterday was Canadian Thanksgiving, and I think it was the first time, I believe, don't quote me on this, that a Canadian team, such as the Canucks in yesterday's case, was playing a game because they shouted out Robert Thomas for being Canadian, even though there's more Canadians on the team than just Robert Thomas. But I thought that was kind of interesting because I was like, oh, I didn't know that stat was that, and that's pretty cool. So happy Thanksgiving to you all. I also think, though, it's important that we see players like a Jimmy Snuggerud stay consistent, Jake Neighbors stay consistent. Consistency is all I'm asking for right now, some of these guys, and that's really what I want to see. Um, so personally, I just think that the more consistent, the more um disciplined this team's going to be, the better it's going to be. Because I know that it's a lot of momentum, but you don't want to get too excited right now, especially with how early it is. And I think that's also okay. I think that right now these guys are where they need to be. But I also want to talk to you about some stuff today because our friend Luke Korak put out some practice lines. Neighbors Thomas Bushi, obviously Thomas centering. Second line, Shen centering, Holloway to the left and Cairo to the right. Third line, Suter centering, Joseph to the left, and then Snuggerud to the right. Fourth line, Bukestad centering, Texier to the left, and Nathan Walker to the right. Defense, Fowler Pareko, Tucker Folk, Broberg Mayu, and then Kessel was the odd man out. Benner and Hofer. Tucker and Folk is a really interesting one. But having Broberg and Mayu, interesting. Um, Lou also put out a tweet. Sundqvist and Turchenko remain day to day. Neither of them will play tomorrow. I know the Blues said that Oscar Sundqvist wouldn't be playing on the home opener / season opener, and they said that he wouldn't be playing on the road trip. However, now I just kind of have a little bit of questions about how he's doing personally, just because it's getting to the point where I don't want to say I'm concerned by any means, but it's definitely like, okay, well, what's the expected timeline on Oscar Sundquist, and when will we have answers? So hopefully we get those answers soon. Lou also stated that the last two guys on the ice today getting extra work in were Dylan Holloway and Matthew Kessel. I'm happy that Matthew Kessel is getting extra work in just because I feel like for him being in the position that he's in with, being always the odd man out, that you have to stay consistent on top of how you're doing practice wise because you never know when you're going to go in. You never know if there's going to be an injury. You never know if something, happens. You just don't know if coach one day wants to put you in. So I do like that. I also like a lot what Dylan Holloway is doing by just working on his game and getting some work in. I think for Dylan Holloway, he's such a talented young man and such a great player, and he has such a good work ethic, and he's really good on the ice. So, again, it doesn't hurt to get more practice in. Practice is such an important thing and such a good thing. And I think that, when you're a professional athlete, you have that mentality of what can I do better? How can I achieve more? And I think that's something that makes a lot of these guys stand out so much on the Blues, to be honest with you, just because a lot of them really do put the work in and it's really, really noticeable. While Dvorsky didn't make the team, it was apparent that, Braden Shen was helping him a good amount after practices, and you really saw the guys step up big time. So I think it just goes to show the amount of teamwork that this team has and how they are in the locker room and how they are off and on the ice. I think that it just goes to show that these are really, at the end of the day, competitive individuals. I like that word, competitive. And tomorrow night, it's a big night. And I think that, right now for the Blues, they just have to get ready. I mean, practice is really all they can do to prepare for tomorrow night. And again, tomorrow, of the preparation, you have morning skate. And another thing that Monty said was, you're going to be facing a team that you're going to be seeing, at least 3 times a year. So again, you're kind of at a disadvantage coming back from the West Coast and, getting back to this time zone. But he said morning skate will be about 15-20 minutes, nothing too tedious, nothing too long, and then from there they will go. So that's the update on that. I want to talk to you about players I'm impressed by. But first, I want to talk to you about Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. Whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments, and when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives like you and I. So if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. It's really important to feel in control, especially when it comes to your financial planning. And for me personally, there's so many bills and things, I have to pay time to time. And with Monarch, it makes it really easy because it's all in one place and I don't have to go like searching for a bunch of things. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. I'm impressed by some players, some of which I'm sure you feel the same way too, and some of which we may not have talked about today. I'm impressed with Jake Neighbors first and foremost. I think that he needs all the recognition possible. Jake is such a good player, so talented and still so young, and he's really done so many great things on the ice. I mean, in the past 2 games, he's accumulated 3 goals total. And again, he's now on the first line, and that's where he deserved to be. And I'm happy that Jake is proving that he does deserve to be there. I mean, I really do like that line with Jake in it. So that's somebody that's really impressed me and just blown my mind because I knew he had this in him, but sometimes I feel like we didn't really see that from him at times. And now we do. Another player that I'm impressed by is Nathan Walker, the Aussie. I think he's such a fundamental part to this team, and sometimes it doesn't get talked about enough, but he has done a really good job setting up plays, being aggressive, and I think that, again, he's such a staple part to this core group of guys, and he's been doing a really nice job on ice. Another player I'm impressed by is Joel Hofer. He had a really, really, really good game against the Flames. Really good game. He's improved. I'll say it. Hof's improved, and it's it's seen, you know? It's visible. You can't deny it. You can see the improvement with Joel Hofer. So for him, I definitely have to give him a big round of applause because it's not easy to be a backup goalie. In a sense, because you don't get as much playing time. So when you do get the opportunity, you have to take full advantage of it. And he definitely is. And on top of that, I think that with having a mentor like a Jordan Binnington, you're able to, learn literally from the best. Like there's nobody else like Jordan Binnington. So overall, I thought that was just a good game by Joel. You're really impressed by him and proud of him. Another player that I'm impressed by is obviously Robert Thomas, and who isn't? He is my all-time favorite player. He is always hustling on the ice, and his goal the other night was just so clean and beautiful and perfect. And again, who isn't impressed by Robert Thomas? I'm also impressed by the captain, Braden Shen. I'm impressed by a lot of people. Defense, I kind of like that Tyler Tucker took that initiative to have a fight the other night. I thought that with Tucks doing that, kind of fired up the team and gave them some momentum. So there was a lot of good that I have seen. I'm impressed. I'm pleased. I'm happy with them. They've had good wins. It was really bad game 1, but they've had really good game 2s and game 3s. And now they get an opportunity tomorrow night to play in front of the home crowd. I heard there might be something different with the goal celebration, but we wouldn't know about that considering that they didn't score a goal in their first game. So we have something to look forward to besides the actual game itself. So I'm curious to see what that is. But with all things said, like, subscribe, comment down below, and I will talk to you tomorrow. And like always, let's go Blues.